Daniel Ricciardo has come home to Red Bull, and there is one certain person that isn't too happy about it. This person is Sergio Perez, as there are a lot of rumours that Daniel has been brought back to the squad to sharpen Sergio Perez and make sure he doesn't underperform. And what happens if he does? He will most likely get booted before the end of the season. Do you think we'll see Daniel Ricciardo race again for Red Bull in the upcoming season? Let us know in the comments down below. The return of Daniel Ricciardo to Red Bull as a third driver, together with the possibility that he may test a car, begs the issue of whether he will ever compete for the team in Formula 1. Since Helmut Marko prematurely announced Ricciardo's return during the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix weekend, the question of whether he has a chance to succeed Sergio Perez has been a major talking point. Not immediately necessarily, but in the following few years. Or will it be immediately? Before 2025, there is allegedly no availability at Red Bull. Replacing Verstappen is out of the question, not only because he's the double world champion and this is his team, but also because he has a contract extension until the end of 2028, and Perez signed a contract extension till the end of 2024 earlier this year. The only way for their driver to leave, whether they jump or are pushed, would be for Ricciardo to race for Red Bull, and Red Bull hasn't hesitated to downplay that possibility. Christian Horner, the team's boss, has emphasized the specificity of Ricciardo's contract, the fact that Perez has a deal for the following 2 seasons, and the fact there is no reason to anticipate that Perez and Max Verstappen partnership won't be strong for the duration of their contractual obligations. However, Ricciardo has steadfastly maintained that he would only pursue a move if it gave him the best opportunity of making a comeback in 2024. Therefore, he either thinks there is a remote prospect of getting a racing seat, or he intends to utilize his year at Red Bull as a stepping stone to join another team. Ricciardo himself refuted Horner's attempt to exclude him from a future racing seat. To be with a top team like Red Bull would be nice, but it's not a guarantee that just because I'm there, that's the seat I'm taking, said Ricciardo. Obviously, if something opens up, then I think just still being affiliated to a team and trying to get some work done, some testing perhaps just to keep me sharp would be good. There could be a wider conversation as well, perhaps with other teams, but that's a few layers removed for now. Red Bull will want to gain more from Ricciardo's comeback than just positive publicity. Red Bull has a reason to consider Ricciardo as a viable possibility, even if the team chooses not to acknowledge it in public. Even though Perez's own form wasn't excellent when Ricciardo's McLaren exit was known, Red Bull may not have had any intention or reason to consider him as a replacement for Perez when the negotiations with Ricciardo began. But since then, circumstances have changed. Verstappen ignored a team order to assist Perez in Brazil because of an incident that happened earlier in the year, and Red Bull entered the last race weekend under fire. Internal strife has lately come to light following allegations that Perez intentionally crashed during qualifying for the Monaco Grand Prix, helping him beat Verstappen that weekend and sparking a team orders dispute months later. Verstappen claims that everything is back to normal there now, but there was some friction at Red Bull between Brazil and Abu Dhabi. Inevitably, a hypothesis about Ricciardo's potential targeting as a more friendly choice to appease the Verstappen camp, or Red Bull's potential use of the threat of turning to Ricciardo as a weapon to control Perez spread throughout the F1 paddock. The season's last weekend was disappointing for Perez. Red Bull had no reason to criticize his qualifying effort because it was of a caliber that put him just a few tenths behind Verstappen and in front of Ferrari. Perez then had a shaky race with a few errors that, when paired with a poor strategy resulting from Perez's inability to stretch his tyres as Verstappen could, cost him second place in the race and the championship to Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Red Bull would most likely lack justification for replacing Perez. Since his arrival in 2021, he's earned 3 victories for the team, adapted to the Verstappen-friendly culture, and contributed significantly to Red Bull's first Constructors' Championship triumph since 2013. However, if there is even the slightest indication that his inner calm is disturbed, then his performance level alone won't be sufficient to save him. Not with Perez playing second fiddle in Verstappen's squad. Ricciardo wouldn't necessarily be the favourite to succeed Perez, even if Perez's position were in any way weak. But by bringing Ricciardo back into the fold, getting him on the simulator, and getting him behind the wheel during testing, Red Bull will be able to accurately assess a driver who Horner has frequently suggested may have only experienced a brief loss of form at McLaren under a particular set of circumstances. We know Ricciardo will favour a top team if he decides a complete F1 comeback is his top objective for 2024. He will invariably start by targeting the organisation he's already a part of. Ricciardo's re-signing will make him a significant player in the 2023 driver lineup story, regardless of where Red Bull stands on the prospect of Ricciardo as a long-term driver prospect. The best defense Perez can offer is that he's still the best choice both on and off the track, by bringing his best performances for the 2023 season. But why have Red Bull opted to get Daniel Ricciardo back in the squad? Red Bull's decision to sign Ricciardo makes a lot of sense, because they had a terrific working relationship for 5 years, while the Australian advanced through their junior program. Having someone with such a high profile, a strong brand, and extensive F1 expertise will only serve to strengthen their whole operation, despite their disappointment that he left them for Renault. And even though boss Christian Horner downplayed the possibility of Daniel Ricciardo joining the team as a racing driver, mostly because Sergio Perez has had a solid year, assisted the team in winning their first Constructors' Championship since 2013, and is under contract with the organisation through the end of 2024. In F1 though, anything can happen at any time, so having Ricciardo on board provides Red Bull choices. Red Bull prefers choices, which is why they kept Alex Albon before releasing him to Williams. If necessary, they can swap Ricciardo for Max Verstappen, Perez, De Vries or Tsunoda. His presence will also keep Perez alert so that he continues to get the results they need from him, even if the chances of Ricciardo taking his place are slim. His work on the simulator will be very helpful, and they can take advantage of the chance to see if he could, in an emergency, fill in for one of their two teams. Meanwhile, the Australian can help lighten the load and relieve pressure on racing car drivers Verstappen and Perez, thanks to the extensive marketing initiatives the energy drink brand is engaged in. Finally, they don't make him go to every race as a backup or spend a ton of time in the factory or simulator, which is good for Ricciardo as well. Both parties find it to be very logical, which is why a contract came together rather quickly. The need to step away from Formula 1, according to Daniel Ricciardo, is the reason he accepted the third driver position at his old team Red Bull. Ricciardo won for McLaren for the first time since 2012 in his first season with the team last year, but he has since had disappointing track performances. The Australian claims that he felt he wasn't performing at the level required to compete in Formula 1 and that he wanted to take the time to rebuild himself. It's certainly a way to still stay involved and to give me the time necessary to take a back step, he told Speed Cafe. As the second half of the season went on, I just needed to step away for a bit, rebuild myself, reset a bit, and also just find the intense love for it. Because at this level, if you don't have that, then I'm not doing justice for myself or anyone around me. I'm not saying I've lost it, but I'm in fear of losing it. Will he lose it? We'll have to see over the upcoming seasons. He will surely get a lot of simulator time and perhaps some testing outings, maybe even a couple of free practices. Ricciardo will undoubtedly be aiming for a racing seat in 2024, and perhaps even for one in 2023 if Perez can't live up to the pressure. So, the question is, Perez will be replaced in 2024 or perhaps earlier, hinges on the fact if he is able to perform at a high level next season. This also depends on the fact if the competition can get closer to the Red Bulls next year. A lot of exciting new if you ask me. What do you think? Will Perez retain his seat next year, or will Ricciardo take over between now and 2024? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and help us reach 10k subs before the end of the year. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.